The gaspasser. It's a weapon that needs no introduction. You and I both know it sucks, and a lot of you probably agree that outside of MVM, it is genuinely the worst item in TF2. But, do you want to hear a secret? I actually love using it. No joke, I know the gaspasser is terrible, but it's always been one of my favorite secondaries for Pyro, and in the past month, I've been using it a lot more, and it's quickly become a staple of my main Pyro loadout. Okay, so how did I end up here, and why exactly do I love this piece of garbage so much? Well, at a first glance, the gaspasser doesn't seem so bad. I mean, it's a gas canister that charges with damage over time, and upon using, creates a gas cloud that lights enemies on fire when they take damage, even other pyros. So what's exactly the problem? Well, I'm not going to be the first person to tell you this, but in fact, the gaspasser has several. The first one being its charge meter. This thing needs 750 damage to fully charge, and if you played Pyro for like even 5 minutes, you'll know that's a lot to ask for. Sure, it still charges over time like other throwable items, but it takes a full minute to completely charge. That is a long ass time. Plus, your meter starts empty when you spawn, and touching a resupply locker doesn't charge it at all. So, the gaspasser mainly relies on skill to use as effectively and as often as possible, since waiting a full minute for it to charge, if you happen to deal literally 0 damage, is just too ineffective. But say that your meter just filled and you're finally able to use the gaspasser, so you throw it, and what's your reward for all of your hard work? A gas cloud that lasts 5 seconds on the ground and inflicts your enemies with 10 seconds of afterburn. And that's it. Now, to the gaspasser's credit, that effect isn't completely terrible. You can still pull off a couple things, like finding cloaked spies or setting up combos with the Neon Annihilator, courtesy of the summer update we got last year. But as nice as all that sounds, Pyro has the means of doing all of those things much easier. If you're trying to combo enemies, just use the extinguisher. And if you want a spy check, the flamethrower lets you spray and pray. And things get even worse for the gaspasser when you take a look at Pyro's other secondaries, because it's pretty obvious that the Scorch Shot is everything the gaspasser wishes it could be. It can also put pressure on choke points and light multiple people on fire, but the Scorch Shot provides far more medium and long range afterburn, can stun lock enemies, is easily spammable, and provides multiple other benefits the gaspasser simply doesn't. And you know, that's mainly a problem with the Scorch Shot being too good at what it does, but the reality is that it's pretty much better than the gaspasser in every way. Basically, the one payoff for successfully hitting enemies with the gaspasser is inflicting afterburn, something the Pyro specializes in very well through other means. But another problem that comes with using this unlock effectively is initiating the gaspasser's afterburn in the first place. You actually have to be able to hit gas-soaked enemies to yield any sort of benefit from this thing, and because Pyro's main source of damage already inflicts afterburn, the weapon's main focus is letting your teammates deal afterburn instead, meaning the effectiveness of the gaspasser is mainly out of your control and into theirs, because similar to other throwables like Mad Milk and Girardi, and even team buffing weapons like the Buff Banner and Kritzkrieg, damage from the gaspasser is almost completely dependent on your team having good aim. And unlike how those items can provide insane benefits like health and extra damage, afterburn really isn't all that great of a buff in every scenario. And not only are the initiation and effect of the gaspasser pretty unreliable, but the weapon's afterburn is even worse because it's just too easy to mitigate. It's like with any other source of flames, they can be countered with health packs, Mad Milk and Girardi, out-healed by healing beams, dispensers, or health-restoring weapons, jumping into water, and so on. Like I just mentioned, even though afterburn isn't going to be the most useful or powerful benefit in every fight, at least the majority of Pyro's weapons that inflict afterburn are either easy to aim or have high damage potential. And honestly, it feels even worse than other fire damage sources, since you have to put in so much effort to use this damn can of gasoline, only to be countered by the same things as the flamethrower, something far easier to use and more effective in combat. So when it comes down to it, the gaspasser's main problems lie in requiring far too much effort to charge for such a weak throwable option, being partially reliant on you and your team being able to take advantage of it, and being just as easily countered as any of Pyro's much easier to use weapons. And none of that was even to mention the whole slew of bugs that the gaspasser has, my favorites of which being its ability to inflict afterburn even with the rocket and sticky jumpers, and being able to throw it through walls. So it's clearer now more than ever that the gaspasser just sucks. So how can I still like using it even after everything I just explained? Well, I have a few reasons. First and foremost, I just love using bad weapons. Now that might sound like a lame explanation, but hear me out. I've always had a soft spot for weapons that the player base can easily recognize as being bad, with some of my favorites being the Liberty Launcher and Red Tape Recorder. And if I'm feeling especially bored and up for a real challenge, the Thompson is my go-to. All of these weapons, while just being worse than their stock counterparts and other unlocks, can all still do something, and in general, are usable to an extent. But the main reason that I like using bad weapons boils down to one word: potential. Because of the fact that bad weapons are, bad, you have to unlock their true potential by putting in the effort to utilize them properly or find ways to make them effective in the first place. And that right there is why I love the gaspasser so much, because it's the epitome of a weapon with terribly polarizing potential. It has use cases and strategies to make it work, which I'll talk about later, but if you use it even slightly wrong, the weapon becomes downright useless. But because it's so polarizing and notoriously bad, it gives me the strange compulsion to use it anyway, just to see how many kills I can potentially rack up with it. See, where a perfectly normal and sane person would toss it aside and think, nah, it's not worth it, I think to myself, how far can I take my gameplay with this? And the fact that it's so difficult to get a kill with makes every kill that I do get with it feel like an impossible milestone I was able to overcome. I'm aware of the fact that no matter how much I love using it or obsess over the gaspasser, at the end of the day, it's still trash. But if you're like me, equipping it in the first place might prove to the enemy team that you're crazy enough to set the world on fire one gas can at a time. Now, despite how awful the gaspasser is in pretty much any scenario, I can't deny that from a design perspective, it's a pretty cool looking weapon. That's the second reason. I just think it looks cool. I know that hardly seems like a good reason to use the gaspasser, but take one good look at the game's huge variety of different weapons, and you'll see that a lot of the worst, bland, or lesser used ones tend to look pretty damn cool. The biggest examples of this that come to mind include the Southern Hospitality, Hulong Heater, the Sun on a Stick and Volcano Fragment, the Eviction Notice, and the Cleaner's Carbine. They all have such a cool look to them, but the unfortunate truth is that as cool as these weapons might look on the surface, there's always going to be better, more appealing weapons in the game. And since we're on the topic of pyro today, I'd say the epitome of this idea is the Maul. Even though it's just a reskin of a lesser used pyro melee, I think this thing looks awesome. And it's pretty much the only pyro melee I use, solely because I just love the look of it. That's why I hold the gaspasser in a similar regard to the Maul. A fire-themed class throwing a can of gasoline, gas-like substance is a really cool concept to me, even if that gas-like substance is horrifically less than lethal. But even the core idea of the gaspasser as a weapon is something I'm a huge fan of. Giving pyro a throwable item with an area of effect capable of covering choke points or objectives has always been, and will always be, a really cool idea. It's a shame that we live in the universe where we got an item like that, but it happens to be less effective than just sneezing on someone. Now, the last main reason I use the gaspasser probably sounds the least legitimate, but it's my favorite part of the weapon: the pure shock value that comes from using it in the first place. This sorta ties back to its notorious status as being a bad weapon. Since everybody knows that it sucks, nobody would expect you to use it in any serious capacity, let alone equip it. So just by slapping it on your favorite pyro loadout, you can now confuse and mess with anybody on the server, friend or foe. Think about it this way: the enemy team sees you coming from a distance, and they know that you're about to whip out your secondary, and they're probably thinking, what's that pyro gonna shoot at us? A shotgun blast with enough chip damage to kill anybody at low health? One of the various powerful flares capable of insane burst damage, higher mobility, or spammable chaos? Hell, a jetpack that can make you close your distance to more easily wreak havoc with your deadly flames? Nope, they're gonna get hit with a canister of... See how anticlimactic that is? For any of your enemies, disappointment is the name of the game when fighting against the gaspasser, because the weapon's effect and damage are so inoffensive. But speaking of disappointment, imagine how disappointed they'd be if they actually die to the gaspasser. See, it's one thing to be confused and bored by the rare engagement of a gaspasser pyro, but if you ask me, it's the most disappointing and embarrassing thing in the world to actually die from its afterburn. And when that eventually happens, it's just icing on the gas cake. On the other hand, your teammates can be another set of victims of your gaspasser antics. Not only because they know you could be using something much more useful for the whole team, but more so because you can play a supporting role in the completely wrong way. If your teammates are burning and about to die from afterburn, the completely right and expected thing to do would be to air blast them. But nope, with the gaspasser, the right thing to do is to make them rethink their involuntary decision to be put on your team and use it to put out their flames. Because if you didn't know this already, the gaspasser for some reason can extinguish teammates. But I especially love this aspect of the weapon because it opens up this whole thought process of just why? Why even bother with such an awful strategy? Why does it let you extinguish teammates in the first place? Why can't I get a girlfriend? As much as I love messing with my enemies by occasionally killing them with the gaspasser, I think I like messing with my teammates even more, because at least in this regard, it seems easier and more beneficial to save your teammates by passer extinguishment rather than very, very occasionally taking your enemies out with that same gas. Okay, who am I kidding? The flamethrower is still better at doing both. Just use that. Alright, I've made my opinions on the gaspasser pretty clear by now. It's not good, but I like it. But what if we can make it good? Well, you can't. The weapon is just bad at its core, but there is one way we can make its downsides less impactful, and that's all through the inclusion of one specific weapon, the Dragon's Fury. I've talked about this weapon a bunch in some of my older videos, but long story short, it's my favorite flamethrower, and whenever I use the gaspasser, I find the times where I have the most fun using it are when I also have the Dragon's Fury equipped. But after using these two weapons together a lot more, I've come to realize that the Dragon's Fury kinda makes up for most of the weaknesses that come from the gaspasser. For one, a huge main gripe about it is that terrible charge meter. And as deadly as the other flamethrowers can actually be, such a high damage requirement plus the flamethrower's limited range can make filling the meter pretty difficult, but the high damage of the Dragon's Fury helps you charge up the gaspasser a lot quicker than you might expect. At base damage, just one initial shot plus the bonus damage from a second shot deals around 100 damage, which is over an eighth of your whole meter. Plus, higher health enemies are even better targets, since not only can you kill them a lot quicker with the Fury's high damage output, but they provide a lot more charge for the gaspasser's meter. Heavies especially are basically just free charge boosts given their high health pools, overhealed or not. Plus, the Dragon's Fury in general lets you go toe-to-toe with the heavy and actually puts you in a better position to come out on top in a 1v1. Well, most of the time. Another weakness that the gaspasser creates is that it hogs your secondary slot, completely getting rid of any reliable backup damage. Especially in cases where you need a quick shotgun blast or flare punch to take someone out who's just outside of your flamethrower's range, the gaspasser falls completely flat. Now that's where the Dragon's Fury can pick up some of the slack, because compared to stock it has a roughly 55% larger attack range. Now of course that's useful for damaging anybody outside the range of stock, but with this longer range, the Dragon's Fury acts like a flamethrower shotgun flare hybrid. It deals the high burst damage of a shotgun or flare and has the extended range of both, with the air blast, high ammo count, and overall utility of a flamethrower. And because the Dragon's Fury has all these characteristics, it can leave a bit of leeway for your secondary option, making it what I see as the most reliable flamethrower when using the gaspasser. Now, any damage sources beyond the range of the Dragon's Fury are still dangerous, especially snipers, and without the aim punch from a flare or shotgun, you're in danger without an immediate damaging secondary, but that's mainly a problem with the gaspasser being a secondary weapon in the first place, so because of that, you definitely have to play safer around sightlines when you've got it equipped. In terms of pure damage though, the Dragon's Fury will still help you do all the heavy lifting, leaving the gaspasser free to assist your team in any way you need. But hold on, what ways can it actually do that? I've been saving this part of the video for last because I wanted to make the point that I think the Dragon's Fury is the best weapon to pair with the gaspasser, because no matter how bad the gaspasser really is, there are a few ways it can be useful, and having access to it as often as possible in game is going to be important. So let's get into what those use cases are. Now, the gaspasser obviously isn't the best at killing on its own, but when combined with other weapons your teammates are using, it can become a force to be reckoned with. Specifically, a ton of weapons in the game can easily deal with light classes if they're covered in gas. The most straightforward example of this would be the grenade launcher. Its flat 100 damage will leave light classes with just 25 health. A 1-2 punch with your gaspasser and a friendly demo's grenade can leave these light classes scrambling for health, and as long as a medkit or enemy medic isn't immediately nearby, Afterburn can easily easily deal with them. Of course, this isn't a surefire strategy, since all these classes have ways to quickly counter the effects of Afterburn. That's where other higher damage weapons like the Huntsman and Direct Hit especially come in handy to make reacting to Afterburn more difficult. With their high damage at close to medium range, they're easily capable of leaving light classes at single-digit health, making their survival almost impossible when on fire. Other notable matchups that make the Gaspasser's Afterburn useful include a fully charged body shot or quickscope headshot on demos or pyros, general high damage from close range shotguns or scattergun blasts, and even damage from the minigun where enemies otherwise just happen to escape at long range with single-digit health.
He got away.
And yeah, everything I just said might sound pretty obvious, like duh. Weapon plus Afterburn is obviously better than just weapon. And even more obvious is that the Gaspasser was basically designed for strategies like this. But I still think it's important to bring up, because along with the ones I just talked about, there's a ton of other weapon pairings like this in the game. So finding one tailored to your favorite class or classes might come in handy on the rare occasion a Gaspasser Pyro happens to be on your team. Or if you happen to be that Pyro, it might be worth sticking close to your teammates to make the most of their potential damage. Another good use case for the Gaspasser is one shown right in the weapon's description, fighting against enemy pyros. Now the fact that they can take Afterburn and you don't immediately gives you a small advantage in 1v1 pyro fights. This makes Pyro's hit and run tactic against enemies now applicable and effective against other pyros, something that's otherwise completely impossible without the Gaspasser. And if you're still on the Dragon's Fury bandwagon, using the two weapons together becomes an enemy pyro's kryptonite, you being able to damage them outside their own effective range on top of dealing lingering damage over time almost completely guarantees you the victory in this matchup. But especially against Flog Pyros, keeping your distance is one of the only safe strategies to deal with them as a Pyro yourself, so extended range and Afterburn capabilities can easily shut them down. Hey, wait a minute, I would have won against that Pyro if that crit heavy wasn't there. Or even if there's just a really good Pyro on the other team that you can't seem to kill, the Gaspasser at the very least gives you a fighting chance against an enemy you simply couldn't deal with as easily otherwise. And the final legitimate use case for the Gaspasser I can vouch for is something we also touched on earlier, extinguishing teammates. I know I already joked about this mechanic, but as weird of a gimmick this is for the weapon, there are a couple of ways the quirk can actually be useful. For one, it can be a nice backup way to extinguish Afterburn if you're low or out of ammo. Weapons like the Backburner, and to a much lesser extent the Degreaser, eat up a lot more ammo when air blasting, making the chances of you not being able to air blast when you need to go up. The Backburner especially puts you in a bad spot to support your team with its max 4 air blasts, and falling under 50 ammo can happen a lot more often than not. The Degreaser doesn't have this problem nearly as much, since your max air blasts go from 10 down to 8, which really isn't too noticeable, but I just wouldn't use the Degreaser with the Gaspasser in general though, since even if you hit someone with a single flame, the Degreaser's Afterburn will override the Gaspasser's, making Afterburn less deadly and by extension, your meter charge slower. Now to be fair, if you really want to use either of these flamethrowers without having to worry about your ammo count when extinguishing teammates, the Man Melter is a better alternative to the Gaspasser in every way. It lets you extinguish unlimited teammates for no cost and gives you free crits in return, so I seriously wouldn't blame you for picking it over the Gaspasser in terms of team support. But there is one area that the Gaspasser trumps the Man Melter or any of the flamethrowers regarding extinguishing Afterburn: ranged extinguishment. In cases where your burning teammates are too far away to be extinguished, or where you just can't make it over to them before they die, the Gaspasser excels in saving your teammates' lives. Even something as small as throwing it at a faraway dispenser or the payload will still provide some sort of benefit, letting your burning teammates heal up that little bit quicker since they're no longer on fire. Admittedly, this extinguishing feature of the Gaspasser is something that won't be useful all the time, but it can come in clutch when the difference between someone living or dying is just a few HP. Okay, where are we right now? Oh, okay, I better wrap things up. The Gaspasser is definitely the weapon ever. It's been bad ever since it was released, and apart from one minor change last summer, it hasn't really seen any improvements over the years at all. Despite the weapon just being bad, the use cases I mentioned earlier, plus the parts of the weapon that I personally find interesting, make it one of my favorite pyro weapons in the game. Like I said a while ago, it's not good, but I like it. Now, I would tell you to leave a comment letting me know if you like the weapon yourself, but I kind of already know the answer that 99% of you are gonna say. So maybe instead, let me know what changes you'd make to the Gaspasser to make it usable, or if there's any strategies that you would use yourself to make the weapon somewhat worthwhile. Also, sorry for such a long time between main uploads. I've been super busy with life in general, but I've got some more videos coming in the near future, so stay tuned. Anyway, that's all I've got for today, so thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh my god, I was about to upload this video and I completely forgot to mention a couple of things. Okay, the gaspresser's charge meter fills up hella fast if you can land your reflected projectiles. Like, look how fast that is, wow! And also, if you air blast when using the Dragon's Fury, time them as best as you can because of its longer duration between air blasts, or you're gonna look stupid. Okay, bye. The pyro chest collapsed.